Welcome back, my friends, and this has been a long time, or as Jada would say,
it had been so long.
Yeah, so long since I uploaded my last video, and I apologize for that. But from now on, I'm going to test a new format in which I will be premiering one episode every Thursday at exactly this time. Now, every episode is not going to be a single topic. It's going to be a bit more dynamic. I'm going to pick 3, 4, 5 topics and assemble them in a single show. That way I will not have to talk 15 minutes about Jeffree Star. Thank you. But instead, for example, this week I could talk briefly about one topic, say, Pokemon's body language and her minion simps, and if I get feedback on your comments that you want to know more about this, that you want to go deeper on this topic, then I just elaborate on the next episode. If this is your first time on the show, welcome and thank you for being here. The main topic is always going to be body language, and I'm going to make sure that you have a good time learning how to use it in your professional and personal life. I'd be really grateful if you like this video and subscribe so you don't miss any of my body language analysis. So what's the agenda for today? We have Amy Coney Barrett's hearing, Prince Harry's face, and Nathan Apodaca viral success. If you want to jump to any section, you can do it with the links in the description. My name is Jesus Enrique Rosas. I'm the body language guy, and I want you to uncover the secrets that people try to hide from you. United States Supreme Court nominee Amy Coney Barrett faced tough questions on issues including the possibility of her having to rule on a case involving the 2020 presidential election during the second day of hearings by the Senate Judiciary Committee. Barrett stressed that she has not committed herself to anyone on how she would rule on an election dispute, saying she would commit to consider all factors about whether to recuse herself, but she would not allow herself to be used as a pawn to decide this election for the American people.
No matter what the issue is, whether it's gun, abortion, health care, campaign finance, does that process hold true for everything?
Yes, you always not. Judges can't just wake up one day and say, I have an agenda, I like guns, I hate guns, I like abortion, I hate abortion, and walk in like a royal queen and impose, their will on the world. You have to wait for cases and controversies, which is the language of the Constitution, to wind their way through the process.
All right, well, Senator Sass gave us a good civics lesson. I hope that's the basic lesson in law here.
Her body language dynamics can help you learn the right attitude facing probing questions during a difficult interview or an interrogation. The 3 most important signals that she displayed were: 1. The same voice rhythm all the time. When people are pushing you emotionally, they will try to trigger a reaction from you. The best antidote against this is keep the same voice rhythm in all your answers. But this could be really difficult if you're stressed or feel anxious. That's why it's useful if you take some time every day to practice your breathing. In those moments of stress, it's really easy to be short of breath. That will impact your voice and people will notice. So make sure you take 5 minutes in the morning and 5 minutes in the evening just to be mindful of your breathing. Number 2, her facial expressions. And yes, we should always consider the possibility that she's got Botox. And that's why instead of looking at her glabella, or the area between the brows or the forehead, you have to pay attention to her mouth. When people want to emphasize something, their mouth is going to be more tense, it's going to open more, and you will notice that even the muscles of the neck are tense with every word. Now, when people are not so sure about what they're answering, it's going to happen the opposite. The mouth will not open as much and the words will be slipping between the lips. So you should be aware of the changes of expression. In Barrett's case, our AI analysis determined that her mouth was saying the words mostly the same way all the time.
Reason to believe that a judge's gut reaction is any better than any other American citizen's reaction, is there?
No, and the judicial process, I described this a little bit yesterday. A judge needs to have an open mind every step of the way. So as I said, I've changed my mind at oral argument even after reading the briefs. I've changed my mind at conference after consulting with my colleagues. So if I were to just say how I thought I would resolve a case just because I saw the issue, it would be short-circuiting that whole process through which I should go and have an open mind and be open to persuasion.
So that's a second clue that she was in command of her emotions throughout the hearing. 3. She allowed herself to answer some questions in a personal way. For example, when she was asked if she had seen the George Floyd video, this was her answer.
Have you seen the George Floyd video?
I have.
What impact did it have on you?
Senator, as you might imagine, given that I have 2 Black children, that was very, very personal for my family. Jesse was with the boys on a camping trip out in South Dakota, so I was there, and my 17-year-old daughter, Vivian, who's adopted from Haiti, all of this was erupting. It was very difficult for her. We wept together in my room, and then it was also difficult for my daughter, Juliet, who's 10. I had to try to explain some of this to them. I mean, my children, to this point in their lives, have had the benefit of growing up in a cocoon where they have not yet experienced hatred or violence. And for Vivian, you know, to understand that there would be a risk to her brother or the son she might have one day of that kind of brutality has been an ongoing conversation. It's a difficult one for us, like it is for Americans all over the country.
So the answer was about what she felt at the moment, and that feeling was shared with her daughter. And that's a very good way to build an empathy bridge, talking about your children instead of yourself. So if there was any aggression in the question or any intention to trigger a reaction, then the person, at least subconsciously, will feel a little bad about their own attitude. Also, you can't help but notice that there are stark differences between the attitudes of all members of the Senate. And if you're engaging in a negotiation, you should pay attention of the body language quirks of everyone. For example, Senator Mike Lee's hands.
Days I've seen some in the media and some in this body try to redefine what it means to pack the court. Some have suggested, well, court packing takes various forms, and it can mean confirming a lot of people all at once. Some have defined it so as to suggest that it consists of doing that which the Trump administration and the Republican Senate have been doing over the last 3.5 years, which is filling vacancies as they have arisen, and doing so with textualist, originalist judges. This may not be something that some like, but this is not court packing. Court packing is itself manipulative. It's something that has great danger to do immense political and constitutional harm to our system of government, in part because it would set up a one-way ratchet. Once you create a position and confirm someone to that position, absent death, retirement, or impeachment and removal, that position remains in place. So, if, for example, a future Congress and White House were to decide.
As he's talking, he plays with the pen in his hands, he draws lines in the paper, he's got a not very confident posture. You usually hear that to build rapport, you should mimic the other person's stance, right? But in this case, it would backfire, and that's why Barrett makes sure to keep the same attitude all the time. It makes her look stable and serene, and those are concepts that you associate with justice. Every time that you're interacting with people, you're standing for your own values. You want to make sure that your body language reflects those values, so your words and your nonverbal communication are on the same page. That helps people trust you. Thanks to the magic of the internet, we also got this clip that you might find interesting. Moving forward, on the International Day of the Girl, Malala Yousafzai spoke with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, and I couldn't help but notice that there's something wrong with Harry's facial expressions and general attitude. And there's 3 more signals that you can spot to tell if someone is not so comfortable at any given moment. One is the constant playing with the fingers, rubbing the fingers, cupping the hands, rubbing the hands. That is not a sign of confidence. That shows that you're nervous, that you're impatient. And maybe not always, but most of the time you want to show that you're in command of your own emotions. That's something that most people expect, especially if you're a power couple. But Harry was not only playing with his hands all the time. Also, his general posture was one of defeat. Even if you are sitting on a sofa, you don't have to put your elbows on your thighs. You can sit more straight with your hand or forearm in your legs. There's also the topic of composition. When you look at Harry and Meghan, you understand that they both are speaking with Malala, right? But one problem is that the frame is not symmetrical and Meghan is more up front and center and Harry is to one side. It's like those sofa pillows are equally important as Harry. Again, it's a matter of composition and people are going to get these clues in a completely subconscious way. Like, Meghan has all this space to sit and Harry is on the literal edge of the sofa. People notice that. People notice the attitude, the fingers, the composition, and most important, the face. We're drawn to see faces, to look at all the details. In this case, it's obvious that he's not engaged in the moment. And it's the same attitude he had a few days in another video. What we can do is compare his facial expressions to a 4-year-old clip where he shows that he's glad to be there. That's just another attitude, and you don't have to be an expert in body language to notice that there's a huge difference between the two scenarios. That's a phenomenon that happens when we observe changes in human behavior, when you can compare this moment to a few years back. But sometimes when we see our loved ones every day, it's much more difficult to spot the changes that happen from one year to another because it's so gradual that we barely notice it. And that's why when you meet a friend that you haven't seen in a long time, they're able to tell if you look different for bad or for good. If you want to learn all the secret codes of the face, you can do it with my complete guide to facial expression analysis. You can find the link in the video description. Anyway, Harry, if you're watching this, next time blink twice if you need help. Now we have a 22 seconds TikTok video that has gone viral and sparked countless spin-offs of a man simply gliding down a highway on his skateboard, drinking cranberry juice from the bottle, lip-syncing to Fleetwood Mac's Dreams. And it's next to impossible to predict what is going to become viral at any time, because the most absurd things can catch gasoline fuel fire at any given moment. And yes, I can tell that you're thinking about Bella Poarch. In this case, the protagonist of the video, Nathan Apodaca, happened to show a few things that a lot of people have been missing for a long time. He's out on the street, no mask, feeling that breeze on his face, just fooling around, and he's a grown man that just happens to have a good time and really love cranberry juice. I'm sure he did none of this on purpose, but we still can learn from these nonverbal codes. Because it's a persuasion tactic when you show what people crave. And our mirror neurons help us imagine that we're doing the same as him and having the same fun. But do you know what was the most important part? The facial expression that tells us that he doesn't give a about anything, and that's liberating. Next episode is going to be a special about the US debates, Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Mike Pence, and of course, The Fly. If you have any suggestions for a body language analysis, just leave a comment. And don't forget to subscribe if you don't want to miss any of my body language analysis and tips.